Hello everyone. I got some pots to make today. It was so interesting. I had such a wonderful day. I had a new group of students come through one of my classes, and so I gotta meet some new people. And I always think it's nice working with a younger group of people. Sometimes older individuals, they have like a particular way that they do something, right? Where the younger folks, they kind of have they're a little bit more open-minded to. Not saying that old people are not open-minded, even though it really depends, right? I'm sure when I'm old, I'm gonna not want to change my mind on things, right? But there's something that's so fresh about a person that is so. Oh my gosh, the fucking ads. I'm so sick of these fucking ads. Alright, get these ads out of here. Alright. Sorry, I'm getting so annoyed with that ad stuff. I don't know, for a while I wasn't getting no ads. I wasn't getting any. Now I'm just getting them all the time. But anyway, but these people who have no sort of idea with throwing, like how to do it and stuff, they're open to my style of throwing, which for me is massive because I'm a little bit of a weird thrower. I don't throw just like everybody else. Sometimes I'm a little bit different. And so for me, I'm telling you right now, it's so helpful when a bunch of students or younger people are open to learning just like my way of doing it, right? Sometimes it's hard for me to, I'm pretty good if somebody has a particular style of throwing. I mean, I can tell them, or I can learn that style relatively quickly, I think, and I can tell them why I think, what are the drawbacks, right? Like some person, when they're pulling up their wall, they use their palm of their hand, they're pushing it against their hand here, right? So they're always just like, wham, wham, wham. And so what I was telling them is if this clay, right, if it's a little bit off-centered, and then you start making your pot and it's off-centered walls, you're only exaggerating that because if you have a flat surface and an uneven wall thickness, right, you're stretching that along. Well, you're not even stretching, you're just pushing that up against that wall, and you're going to have tilted tops, right? You're always going to have tilted top. So I was telling them, you can do it that way, just make sure you're centering and the opening up and every single thing before you've started, right, is really, really center, right? You got to make sure it's centered, because if you don't, then, you're essentially with that, you're really front loading your work, right, in a way that if you don't do this beginning stage properly, then it's going to be way harder. And so I try to tell them my way of throwing, it's not my way, but a way of throwing is that stretching method that I always talk about in these videos. And if you can do that, oh my gosh, then it doesn't even have to be like this right now isn't even that centered, right? There's some undulation to it here. Let me get there's a slight undulation. If I set my finger here, I can feel it bump my finger and off my bump it and then get off of it, right? So one side's a little bit thicker than others, but if we're stretching the clay, if it's close, we're in a good spot. And here I am, I'm opening up the bottom of this clay. There we go. Nice. Taking this wall, I'm slowly carrying this up. And again, I have that stretching that's happening, right? I'm going to switch to this camera for these next couple pulls here, and you'll really see it in a second. So down towards the bottom, wrapping my knuckle with my finger here, or wrapping my finger with my thumb and my middle. Sometimes I use a knuckle. Right now I'm going to use my finger. Right at that bottom part. And I'm just taking this little bump. You can see. Just taking this little bump. I'm just carrying that bump all the way to the top, right? You already got something that's like, a lot of people, this is probably, I don't know, like 7 inches? Maybe more than that. Maybe it's like, my hand is like, I don't know, from here to here is probably like 6, 5.5 maybe, I don't know actually, but maybe like 7 or 8 inches tall, right? From just one pole, right? One normal pole, and I already got it that tall. So that's like what I mean is like when you can get this idea of this stretch working for you, it makes the whole entire process just glide. So here I am. I take that little notch there, and I'm just carrying that all the way up to the top. I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's almost like my interior hand is pushing downwards, right? Even though we're going upwards, right? I'm feeling that tension on my finger, right? I'm feeling that. Oh, I caught another ad. All right, you're not gonna get away from me. All right, fucking hell, get this shit out of here. That piece of shit ad. So annoying. Okay. Oh wait, I can't even see what I'm doing now. Now I got clay all over my mouse. Oh no. That's better. Okay. And we're back. You can see like I just took that line and I just carry that little notch all the way up through the pot, right? And look how there's slight undulation, but it's barely noticeable, right? For me, this way of throwing, oh my gosh, just makes everything so easy. But that finger's down, like this interior finger is almost, here, maybe a better angle. Okay, so this interior finger's right here. Right, let's see how close I can get it without it looking weird. My interior finger's right here, and it's pushing almost down. It's hanging out right there, as my other finger's like right underneath, pushing up underneath that finger, right? So it's almost like, how do I do this? There we go. So like almost like that. So this is like down, and then this is like right up underneath that. And it's just, I'm feeling my finger, this finger, I'm feeling it with this finger, right? And when I feel that on the inside, then I'm just gliding upwards. I'm not changing my pressure unless it's like really off, and then I'm do some like on the fly things, but I mean, you'll get used to that as you're doing more and more pulls. The main goal is if you can just slowly get that figured out, right? Like that, getting locked in on that bottom part here, and then taking that up, then everything else, it becomes a lot easier, right? If you can't ever feel that, then how can you expect you're gonna, start throwing really great pots all of a sudden, right? Today I had one of my students like started making large thing, and then everybody got pretty excited with making like larger things, right? And I don't want to be a curmudgeon. I'm not gonna say like, you guys can't make large things. That's like, you never want to like stifle somebody from making something, right? I feel like I don't want to do that. But I do, like, I did tell them, I said, our classes are designed around what's the objects that they make, right? And we're not making any particular objects, right? And so what I think first is we gotta get to learn like throwing, and so making these larger objects is hard right? It's hard for us to like take it through the whole process in a shorter period of time, right? The goal is to try to take you through each one of these sections through a pretty rapid pace, so then you can get a feel for it, right? And if we can just keep on pumping out, then maybe if you take a class in the future, you know, all of a sudden you start gliding and working on height and larger things, right? But if you can master like where weight needs to be distributed on a clay or on clay while it's still like smaller or workable, then it just makes it easier for when you go larger, because you already know where your hands got to go. Look at that spiral on the inside there. I really like the way that looks. But okay, here's this. I'm gonna take this little edge up here, so I'm running a sponge right along, and you can see just popping that up. Great. This one's nice. This is like a really uniform one, right? Like for a lot of people, they don't like some of the more wacky ones. I think they like these really uniform ones, but not me. I think with this one too, you know what? We're gonna just do a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A little bit off, but close enough. Take this underneath. If I'm thinking about what I did wrong there, that they didn't match up, I started the first undulation, the first floop. The first one was a little bit too slow when I was leading it into the second one. So then when I made the full rotation around on that last one, I had to make it a little bit different because it wasn't fitting naturally into that spot. So here's number 1. All right, set this over here and we'll get over to number 2. So we got another little chunk. How do I get this? Oh, there we go. Okay. I do be liking this GoPro has this like super wide cam. I feel like this is like really nice that you can see all of this area here. And it's like right just on my head. I don't know. It might look like everything kind of gets curvy and weird on these edges here. But the fact that it's looking down and you can see like the tripod legs, it's kind of amazing. Right? You can almost see the green screen behind me. That's like, I don't know, it's just kind of amazing to me. Okay, so I take this off, I wipe all the clay off on my pants. I really gotta hurry it up here because I've only been going for 13 minutes. It's not that bad. So I'm pushing this down, I'm doing like CPR, and you can see I'm like twisting my hands. It's almost like I'm pushing them, they're together, and then I'm letting them rotate out. And that's how I'm starting to get this on center, right? You can just, hit it with your hand, but my hands are a little bit wet in some areas, so I don't want to splash. I don't want to get clay on my cameras, and so I'll do it that sort of CPR way. And then I'm taking this up there, nice. And we'll swap cameras here. And down, then up, and then down, and up, right? So like when I go down, I'm trying to prep for when I go up to make it seamless, so I'm up in front here. Usually you can be in the back like this, but for me, I want to be up in that front, so then I can just curve that right underneath and get into a pole, right? If I'm back here, then I have to swap my hands. They have to be parallel to each other wherever they're at. And so when I'm pushing this down, if I'm up over the clay, it makes it easier to just take that palm and then just scoop that clay right underneath and take that up. And I'm always imagining that there's like a ping pong ball in there that's in the inside of a water balloon. and that little ping pong ball inside the water balloon, you know, that's the thing that's really what you're trying to do. You're moving this water balloon in a way that you don't squish the ping pong ball, but you push that ping pong ball up towards the top of the water balloon. So you got to manipulate the clay around it, or the water around it, to push that ping pong ball up. That's how I always think about it. Anyway, now I'm down here with my thumbs. Here, I'll cut this off. So I'm down there, straight down with my thumbs. Right? I have like my hands here, but it's really just my thumbs are like locked in, going straight down. Then I'm out, Captain Hook, you know. Only my fingertip, not the pad of my finger, the tip of it, is cutting along that bottom to form that bottom of that clay, or the bottom of our pot. The bottom of the clay, that's so fun. I feel like sometimes, I guarantee you, as you guys are watching some of these videos, I say some stuff that I don't catch myself saying, and then it sounds like probably like a big mess of just random words. But get a little spiral on the inside there. And here I am, you know, I'm scooping up with these fingers. You can even see, right, these fingers are up underneath. I'm pushing my thumb towards my fingers, right? Or the palm, you can do that too. But I'm doing my fingers this time, and I'm just taking this hand as that swooping lever right over top center, right? It's not like over this way, past center, it's right through center, right? A good thing to think about in clay, with ceramics in the wheel, if you're pushing something through the center of it, the chances are it's probably going to want to go center. So whenever your pressure is going towards the center, you're going to be in a lot better position than if you were pulling like on the edge here, right? Like, why would we want to be over here, like doing all this stuff here? We want to be on that, through that center point, right? Okay. Now at the bottom, again, up underneath, taking that little edge, scooping that up, and I have some slight undulation, but you can see how if we stretch the clay, it doesn't really matter. You get that nice centered object, just like that, guys. Look at that. Right? We're in a good spot here. I'm gonna collar this up just a little bit. Is that a bug? There's a flying bug in here. How did a bug even get down here? That's so wild. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna push this clay down. So I'm down on this bottom edge, and I'm pushing this down because I want to create some little spot for me to do my throwing in. Again, I'm right up underneath. Another advertisement. That motherfucker. Whatever, I gotta finish this pull. I gotta pay attention. I wasn't even looking at it for a second. Come on. You'll get to a point. Oh, it's back. You'll get to points when you're doing your ceramic stuff where you'll just feel it more so, right? Try to throw blindfolded. Sometimes it's a little weird. But I think if you gave me like a week to really get a hold of it, I could make a whole series of pots just blindfolded. It sounds like it's a cool thing, but it's not. I remember I had a teacher who made us wear blindfolds, and like sometimes I think these things are just like very like superficial events where they're trying to make you think that you're doing something unique. Right? Like people do like ceramic yoga, or like try to throw with their feet, and it's like supposed to be this like really freeing thing or whatever. I feel like it's kind of just, it doesn't help. At least it doesn't help in my way of making, right? Like I think it's like one of those things where people are more interested into the activity of doing the thing than they are into the throwing. And I think at that point, right, like you're already missing the point. You're not going to be learning how to throw, right? All right, right on that edge. Slowly taking that edge out just like that. A little undulation. Not as straight as that first one, but again, that's okay. It doesn't need to be. I'm gonna pick this up. Or it's like the wine and painting. I don't know. I feel like maybe y'all would have an opinion on this. But do you think that like for example, like the wine night painters, right? That it's like a whole entire, like, you just get drunk and paint at a place. Do you think those people like get better? Like at painting, I mean? I know it's a hard thing to say because everybody's like so different, right? On a different scale and stuff. But actually just bend these down like this. Sorry. I'm gonna fold these up, skip. 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 I think I did this wrong, but it looks fine. Do you think they get better at painting from going to those things? I don't know. I feel like in my mind, I would say no. I would say like, you got a couple options to get better at something. At least in like the Noah mind here. What I have is I have a couple options. I can do something so slow, right? That it's like literally it's painful, right? But I really mule over every single moment that I'm like touching the clay. And then I would like learn it better through just doing it absurdly slow and like actually being serious about like, oh, what is this hand movement doing? What is this doing, right? And I think that that's a good way to like teach individuals, right? When you have a time frame, right? Like when you have like a short class or something, right? Or if you're not willing to put in like enormous amounts of hours into something, right? I think a really good way to like learn it is to just mule over it, right? But that's not my mind. My mind is like a total zoomer brain. I can't seem to sit down and like mule over something like that. I'll end up just like hating it. Like I'll hate it, right? And so I think about, well, what's something that's probably in my mind, it's like a more brutal way to go about it, right? Like mentally, right? Is you actually just do it so much that you can't that you do it so much that you end up just like learning the material, right? You're learning from just reading the material, right? And when I mean reading, I mean like you're just doing it so much, your body starts talking with the material and you learn. You just learn by, like, it's almost like how do you learn to walk? You just start walking as a kid, right? And then eventually you sort of just figure it out, right? It's that same way, but you got to do it so much, right? That you can't even think about, well, you can think about other stuff, but you're just doing it a lot, right? And so that's the way that I've sort of figured it out, how to make myself get better at things, right? But that's not something that you can do in a class time, right? Like that's not enough. You don't have enough time to like sit down with these people. Like what I would say is like, oh, I'm going to do an 8-hour class straight, like 8 hours straight. You just sit on the wheel and you make for 8 hours. And we're going to make like, I don't know, in 8 hours you could, once you get at the beginning of it, you might make like first class of an 8-hour class of making, you might make 20, 30 things, right? Then as you get better, you should easily be able, in 8 hours, you should be able to make 50 things, right? Some people take a whole 8 weeks of a class time to make like 10 things, right? And that's like, it's a very difficult thing because how can you expect someone to make a lot of ground, right, learning something if they've only made it 10 times, right? You don't just read 10 books and then you're a master at reading books, right? But you can read those 10 books 1,000 times and then you become a master at reading, right? And you'll also be a master at reading those books specifically, right? You might even skip pages that don't even matter, right? You learn it that well, right? That don't incorporate the story, because a book isn't this like, it's an opinion, right? Essentially, it's an opinion of an idea. And so, like, you might realize, okay, well, this page, actually the author didn't need to even have this page in there, right? Because it's not pertaining to, it's not making the story any better, right? Like, learn to critique books. Books aren't these like super sacred things. It's somebody who's not that much smarter than you, right? Is just writing their thoughts down, or writing a story down, right? And so I think it's important to realize that, first of all, that the people around us that we kind of look up to are not that much better than us realistically. Now I sort of forgot what I was talking about earlier. Oh yeah, throwing. And so I just started throwing a bunch of things, right? And I'll throw every single day. And then I learned after a while, oh shit, I can actually throw clay, right? I actually can feel what it's doing. I don't know the right way to throw, but I've thrown so much that I have my own little vocabulary on what I'm doing, because I feel the clay. And when I feel the clay, it also makes it easier for me to help students out too, right? Like, I think about that and I'm just like, oh wow, you know what? Like, I can feel like where your positioning is at, right? Like, so I often have my hands on the clay with like my students, right? And I'm feeling like what they're doing with their clay. And so that makes it so I can say, well, you know what, we might want to try this, or I know I'm going to put my hand there and act as a counterbalance so they can finish the pole or something, right? And so that's sort of how I'm thinking about that. There we go. Collaring this in here, like that. Nice. I'm going to go right to the bottom. But those are like the two ways that I think are the best ways to learn in ceramics. Mule over it, or just make so much that nobody can even, like, people will get like scared by how much you're making, right? Like, that's how you know, like, you're in a, there's this guy named David Goggins, and he says, when people think you're insane, they think you're crazy, that's how you know you're in the right spot, right? I totally think that's a really, it seems like gym bro mentality, right? But it's not, right? It's like so powerful when you can make another human being question your sanity because you're so into something, right? Like, I think if you're doing that, like, you're in a good area to be, right? If nobody is like looking at you like you're a crazy person, right? Then you're just like, you're not challenging yourself, I think, enough, right? And challenging yourself is different for all people, right? Because challenge for David Goggins is running like back-to-back marathons, like super marathons, whatever, right? Ultra marathons, back-to-back, right? A challenge for me would be like running 4 miles, right? Like, so like a challenge is different, but just because the challenge is different, the mentality that we're invoking for a challenge is similar, right? So people always say that, like, you don't understand what it's like, and my body might not understand the feeling, but my mind understands the desire, right? I always think, like, really, people are like thinking that they're super, super unique, but you're only unique when you train to be that way, right? If you're not training to be unique, and a lot of the way that we feel things are human, right? They're human feelings. And so I'd say don't fetishize your own struggles to a point where you use it as like an excuse for things. right? I think that's really, it's important, right? And you never know, like, by saying that, like, you don't understand how I feel about something, right? You're also sort of blocking a conversation that might help you overcome something, right? And so it's really about being like really open-minded. I feel like I'm doing a way better job at talking to you guys today. I feel like yesterday was a freaking struggle. Yesterday I was just not really good at the talking thing. I always say it's a shame, like, I understand why people don't make like videos every single day sometimes, and they'll make one post over a long period of time, like one post, and they'll make it really clean, because somebody who's just seeing your channel once, that might be the only time you can ever get their eyes and attention on something, right? And so in my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, like, well, if somebody sees like my video from yesterday, they're definitely not subscribing. There you go. Look at that. Looks nice. But if somebody saw this video today, they might like it. I don't know. I feel like what I'm saying is like some informative stuff, right? Look at that. That's pretty cool. Okay. I'm gonna wrap my fingers around this wire here. I cut across. 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 And I cut across. We're liking this. So we got the chainsaw blades out. The Beyblade. Let it rip. Hopefully you guys know that toy. That's such a cool toy. I think I only had a couple Beyblades, but I did think it was cool. I think I was on the edge of Beyblades not being popular. Like, I got the tail end of it. And then Byakugan was the super popular. I talked about Byakugan before. Like these little marbles that like, kind of like Transformers, or like, there's first a marble, but then there'll be like a dragon or something. I thought those were really cool. It was so weird as a kid. I can't even think now as an adult, like, what would compel me. Fucking Ritz crackers snuck an ad in there. But I don't even know what possessed me to want to buy stuff when I was a kid. Like, now I'm thinking about it as an adult. Maybe it's because I found my ceramic stuff, but I can't even imagine why I would want Byakugan. Like, it seems like such a waste. But here's the last one, guys. Really thinking. I'm like really a fan of that bottom section there. I mean, look how cool that is. I love those little tendrils, I call them. Tendrils. Okay. Now, I'm going to get ready for the image. So get this over here. Get this here. Well, I'll show you guys. I like kind of having the reveal, right? Put this over here. Nice. Get these ones. Great. Number 2. Looking good, looking fresh. Really liking that. Number 3. Taking this up. Oh, great. And now we have the big reveal. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Alright. Kind of like the staggering effect of them getting smaller. But, alright, fist. Oh, what the heck's in here? all the best. Strong mentality. Thank you so much for watching. Because there's Chinese in the background. If you're Chinese, 再见, I think, 再见. And that means goodbye. All the best.